rejected for her skin, until a millionaire farmer changed everything. She was Amara Wilson, elegant, poised, and full of quiet strength. But none of that mattered when the truth of her identity came face to face with harsh prejudice. The man before her turned pale, his throat constricting with a gulp so loud it echoed over the station noise. It was as though he'd seen a ghost. In broad daylight. This won't work," he blurted out, his voice trembling as his eyes darted away. "You didn't say you were," he trailed off, unable or unwilling to say the word. "Black," Amara finished softly, the word hanging between them like a thundercloud. Her heart sank, a painful, heavy drop in her chest. The beautiful hat she had picked out with care, the one she imagined would make her first meeting perfect, suddenly felt ridiculous, useless even. 3 exhausting weeks of travel, 6 months of heartwarming letters, a trunk filled to the brim with hope, dreams, and everything she owned. And a promise of escape from the suffocating prejudice of the city. All of it shattered in a single heartbeat. I imagined something else," Harold Pierce stammered, his hand shaking as it clutched a now drooping bouquet. The flowers, once vibrant, seemed to wilt in sympathy with his cowardice. "You write so elegantly. Why didn't you give me a hint?" "A hint of what?" Amara responded, her voice controlled, though her spirit trembled. "That my skin is dark as midnight, but my heart, my feelings are as human as yours. You never asked." Around them the station had started to buzz. Passengers slowed their steps. Workers glanced sideways. A black woman, clearly educated and well-dressed, standing beside a white man who had clearly come to meet her, only to reject her publicly. It was too good of a spectacle for the small town of Riverbrook to ignore. "You must understand my position," Harold muttered, eyes darting nervously. "My business, the community. They won't accept this." "Mean I can buy you a return ticket. I'll cover expenses. You're smart, you'll understand." Understand. Oh, Amara understood more than he could ever know. She felt a cold chill, not from rejection but from a controlled, quiet fury. He had written letters filled with longing, of loneliness, of wanting a partner who understood him. A man in his mid-40s, widowed, desperate to find meaning again. But apparently that yearning came with a hidden clause. Skin color required. "I spent every penny I had to come here," Amara said, her voice like still water, calm but deep and unyielding. "There is no going back. There's no home to return to." Harold fumbled in his coat, pulling out a fistful of wrinkled bills. "This should get you by for a few days, till you figure something out." And then, suddenly, a voice like thunder cracked through the air. "Is that it, Pierce? Throw some cash at the problem and hope it disappears. Just like you always do." A tall figure stepped forward, powerful in presence and voice alike. He wore simple clothes, yet they reeked of quiet wealth, the kind of understated confidence that only the truly powerful could wear. "Alexander Maxwell," the man introduced himself, stepping beside Amara, his gaze locked firmly on Harold. "You've always been a coward, Harold. But this is a new low." "This isn't your concern, Maxwell," Harold snapped, though his voice faltered. "It becomes my concern," Alexander replied, voice sharp, "when I watch a man I've respected for 15 years treat a guest like garbage." He turned to Amara, his eyes softening. "Miss Wilson, I have a home just outside town. Spacious, quiet, and most importantly, safe. If you'd allow it, I'd be honored to offer you lodging until you find your next step. You'd be a welcome guest." Amara hesitated. Life had taught her that kindness could often be the first mask of manipulation. But something in Alexander's tone, his stance, it rang true. Harold, red-faced, fumed. "You're joking, right? What will the townspeople say?" Alexander's smile didn't reach his eyes. "The same people who buy from me, who rent my land. They'll say nothing. Or they'll whisper. Either way, it changes nothing." Harold paled, fully realizing the extent of Maxwell's influence. This wasn't just any farmer. This was the farmer. The man whose land fed half of Riverbrook. And as Amara climbed into Maxwell's carriage, she carried not only a suitcase of dresses, but a secret. A hidden truth that could shake the very foundations of this small town. A truth Harold would come to regret ever trying to dismiss her for. Stood frozen, a hush fell over the room, not out of fear but awe. In that moment, it was clear to everyone that Amara Wilson was not just a woman wronged, not just a teacher, and certainly not just a black guest in a white man's estate. She was a force. Reckoning. A chapter of history long buried, now awakened and walking boldly into the future. Judge Thornton cleared his throat, the weight of his authority returning to his voice. This town cannot ignore the truth any longer. These claims will be reviewed under the full extent of the law. And until a ruling is made, Miss Wilson's rights, as both a citizen and a claimant, will be respected. The townspeople shuffled uneasily. Some looked away in shame. Others whispered nervously. A few, the younger generation especially, nodded subtly with something resembling hope. Outside the town hall, the spring air was crisp and charged. Alexander walked beside Amara in silence for a moment. Then he spoke. "You didn't just change the course of Riverbrook, Miss Wilson. You changed its soul." Amara smiled faintly, but her eyes remained on the horizon. "It was never just about the land, Mr. Maxwell. It was about memory, justice, and planting something honest where deceit once grew. And so it was that a woman who arrived by train as a rejected bride stayed to become the architect of renewal, a living bridge between past injustice and future possibility.